Hello and welcome to Sim.bc, where yesterday we went through the top 5 cons of having a daily upload schedule. So it only seems logical, it only seems reasonable to take up the other side of that, you know, two sides of a coin. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we will be taking up the top 5 pros of having a daily upload schedule when it comes to making videos, when it comes to being on YouTube. Now, as of yesterday, I think I explained that these lists are, you know, just my lists. They're entirely subjective. So if you've done a similar task and you think, hey Sim, you were all out in the wind, you don't understand. There is so many so many pros that you didn't recognize, that you didn't even take up. Well, that is probably because these are my pros that I've identified, so hopefully I won't be stepping on anyone's toes when it comes to, you know, what I've discovered for myself. So I thought, why not get straight into it? But first, I must say as well, this list will be ranging from 5 to 1, so to say. So 5 is going to be the most fringe advantage, the most fringe pro of them all. I do consider them all pros though. And the number 1 spot is going to be the most key figure, so to say. The most key positive thing that I have interpreted, that I have experienced, that I've come into contact with over the last, well, it is a year. It is a year now. It is a year. Yeah, over the last year. And I have a list here. If I just tend to look down a bit much, that is probably why, because I have my list here. So without any further ado though, mates, let's get into the top 5. And on the number 5 spot, we have initiating experiments such as singing at the SNR. And if they're bad, well, they're just going to be one of many, many, many videos that are out there, because I believe that I have done approximately 400 videos after this little project is coming to a close. So on Sunday I will have made approximately 400 videos. There's a lot of videos is what I'm trying to say. And that also means that I can take the initiation in like everything I want to. I can be doing whatever I bloody want to, because if I make one mistake, it's only gonna be that. It's only gonna be one mistake. Now, one can argue that one mistake out on the internet for everybody to see displayed and can be taken out of context could be a huge disaster. That's true, but I would like to be focusing on the positives. And the positive of this is that, as I said, just the singing thing, I wanted to sing for so long. Even when I began this little project, I was like, I would like to sing each and every week, you know, have a video going up about me singing, maybe put some original songs in there. That hasn't happened yet, but who is to say it won't come in the future? But just the idea of actually putting in video with music out there where I'm actually singing, it was such a huge step for me. Now, I went through this in sort of this summery-ish video I did about the singing cover, whatever you want to call it, when I was sick, and to some degree I still am. So you can probably go and watch that if you want more in-depth thoughts about it. But the SNR, then to take another one, is also one of these initiatives where I would just like to, you know, get a bit more engaged with reading the news each and every single week. And that has accomplished its goal, so to say. So it's been a huge success, at least for me, to taking new initiatives, and yet again, if they're not that good, they will just be flushed away with all the other videos, which is great. So any further ado though, let's move on to point number 4, which is mindless talking. Now, this is a term coined by myself today, actually, as of making this video. And what I'm trying to convey with mindless talking is, and let me just stress this point enough, I don't think anyone is really good at this. So here's the context there. I don't think anyone is good at this. It's just like multitasking, right? Nobody is really truly good at multitasking. It's just that you suck a bit less. You're a bit less bad at it, right? I mean, that's my interpretation of it anyway. And mindless thinking is going sort of in the same vein. Because when I'm saying mindless thinking, I'm meaning I can talk, right? Mindless talking. I can talk about something, and whilst I am finishing a point of view, whilst I'm finishing my point, my perspective, the point I'm trying to get across, I can already be thinking about what I'm going to talk about after that. And especially with me, who is doing a raw format, I don't have a script, that is very important to do. And that is something that I've been training my butt off over the last year, because it's really something that is quite evident when you're in the moment and you're like, oh, I have an idea I want to sort of persuade, and that takes like 4 minutes. And I'm like, what am I gonna talk about for the rest 20? You know, for the rest 16 minutes I'm here. I could cut it short, of course, but generally I want to create the discussion. Generally I feel like I've raised some points to do something with it, right? It could be that I have a theoretical point and like, let's throw in an example. And I can be thinking about how I'm going to formulate the next point while I'm still trying to finish the point that I'm at. And it sounds really strange and really abstract to people that I'm trying to describe this to, because yes, I have already tried to talk to some of my mates about it, and they're like, mindless talking? What are you talking about? I'm exactly. No, but it's sort of like your talking and your reasoning is all planned out for you by your brain, so I must give some acknowledgement to my own mind here, right? I mean, that didn't sound arrogant and arrogant at all, right? But I must give some credit to my own mind, because it's sort of like I'm taking the autopilot when it comes to talking. So I'm just like starting to thinking about what am I going to take up in the next sort of say part of the video, and then just let my own mind and my own mouth, let's say, just finish off the thing that I'm talking about and the point I'm trying to make, whilst I'm 100%, or rather probably like 50%, right, focused on what is going to come up next. And that is a really good skill when it comes to doing something on the go, doing something spontaneous, and doing a presentation where you might going a bit off script, to be able to sort of connect everything continuously without even having to cut anything or stop anything. I think it's an essential skill to have, really, for anyone who is in a management position who is going to present something. This idea to be able to get back on track all of the time and be able to think ahead while simultaneously not dropping the ball of what they're talking about in the moment. So hopefully that made it a bit clearer. But that's something that I've been improving over the last year a lot, actually, and you can really see that if you go back to my old videos, because then it's a lot of yeah, so Porter's yeah, mind, and then we have this and now it's more like, you know, I can talk freely because I'm already on the next point in my mind, and maybe even 2-3 steps ahead, which is awesome, which is great. Probably because of that, I'm gonna say, just because of that, but you know what, it doesn't really matter. Now, moving on though to point number 3 of the pros is also something about improvement, improving my English. Because yet again, if you can, sort of in the same vein, go back and watch the older videos, there's a huge distinction, there's a huge difference between the vocabulary, the structure of how I'm actually talking, the confidence behind me actually talking about something. And I think we can, yeah, we can throw in confidence here as well. The confidence behind that I know what I'm talking about, so to say. Just because of that sentence didn't make any sense. The idea that I know that the vocabulary I'm using is getting better. And that is making me, you know, I feel like I'm developing. I notice that I'm developing, especially if I, as I said, watch older videos and comparing them to more recent ones. I can see that, yeah, my English has really gotten better. And that is even though I was considering myself, right, to be a very good English speaker. You know, I thought I was fluent when I started this. And one can argue that I was hindered by my own lack of confidence in the beginning, because you are in everything once you start something new. Doesn't really matter how confident you are in your natural state. When you start something new, you tend to be like, taking 2 steps back, 1 step back at least, because you don't want to blow everything away directly. It's still something new. You have all of these things you have to keep in mind. But now I can just freely blow everything out of the water, so to say, and I can just focus on the thing that I'm talking about simultaneously as I'm throwing in complex word, adding the complexity and the understanding of the accumulation of videos that we're actually presenting, right? I mean, it was such a splendid way of putting it, right? Even though we were taught to use plain English at each and every time that we could in school. But yeah, sort of going against that. But just the amount of improvement in English, yet again, kind of connecting it to point 4, where I was like, you know, mindless talking. I'm probably able to do that because my English level have reached that new level of proficiency where I can actually naturally talk about something while in English, whilst not focusing on it 100% of the time, because I know it will be correct anyway. Or at least I will know that the pronunciation won't be, you know, really off, or that my Swedish accent will be bursting out in front of everything, and I will be talking like this, and I don't have to, like, think about that, which is really good. So instead I can just, you know, naturally talk English, which is fine, I guess, and I don't really. Anyway, it's a huge point for me personally. It's something I've improved over the year. Fingers crossed it's going to get better in the future, and I will look back at this and be saying, wow, I really thought I was good there, didn't I? This smug prick I was in a few years, and I will be like, now you're a lot better. But at least now, in comparison to 365 days ago, I'm a lot better at English. At least I would classify myself as being better at English. Anyway, moving on to point number 2. We have, and this was also a, let's say establish some context. This was also one of them times, just like yesterday, when I didn't really know which one to put at the top, because these two are so closely correlated with each other. And funny enough, the second point, the one I put in second, sort of contradicts a lot of the cons that I had yesterday, and it really sounds like I'm saying, oh, you know, it's a con, but then today I'm gonna say, but it's sort of good as well. And that is, let's just get into it. Creative mode. Yeah? Some people say Sage mode, some people say Rage mode, some people say whatever, right? But I am in a creative mode all of the bloody time. Let's just read all this. Always looking for new perspectives, new opportunities, and new ways of thinking about the same problem. New ways of tackling, new angles, new everything. Just creative. Be as creative as you can. And I'm not going to try and connect this every single day to the project that I did a few weeks ago by now, which was the Imagination Creativity Project, which I highly encourage you to go watch. But it really feels like everything I talked about in that video, I have incorporated over the last year, and I just explored my own way of tackling a problem. I've sort of built my own structure in my mind, my own sort of plan in my mind of how I go about dealing with the project, how I go about dealing with the problem. If I take something up, let's not just take up the obvious points, let's not just take up what I think is right about the point, but also try and bring in what is wrong about the point. And this is also one of the reasons why I can't really do a either sexism or racism project, because yet again, my way of going about dealing with problems nowadays is that I want to raise both points of view, both the good and the bad, and that's really hard to do when you're talking about something that I would like to consider being objectively bad. It's really hard to take up the good side of something that, you know, isn't really there. And then the only time you can do is like pushing it to the efficiency point of view and sort of maybe trying to play of an economic point of view, but you're only going to shut it down the very next sentence anyway. A good way of building an argumentative view, I suppose. But I feel like I've gotten a lot better of identifying different perspectives, being more creative in my craftsmanship of how to actually adapt to a new problem, adapt to a new situation. Because I've also been in these situations where I have raised a topic, raised a point of view in a video, beginning with one very opinionated stance on the matter, right? And I'm being like, let's just say my favorite example of the politicians, right? Let's just say that I'm saying blue is the best color in the world. But then as I progress the video and I try to present my counter arguments, I come to think, well, maybe I'm wrong though. Maybe blue isn't that good. You know, maybe blue is really bad. And I've never experienced something more fun, and that probably says a lot about me as a person, my personality, and what I consider to be fun, right? But I've never really experienced something that is so fun as starting off on one side and then slowly turning myself over to the other side with just logic. And I'm like, but I used logic. I clearly did. I clearly used logic in the beginning. And that's why it's bad. That's why it's good. But then simultaneously, when I present it in the way I do, I sort of kind of understand why it's bad as well. And then it also comes to making a very conveying your point on both sides. And actually trying to be truthful to both sides simultaneously. Which, and this is, you know, a non-existing thing. But I would like me to think that is increasing the objectivity of which I can view a situation from, and which I can view a problem from. Obviously, that's entirely ludicrous, because really, when we talk about people, there isn't such a thing as objectivity. You're always subjective, right? Especially when I'm talking about switching sides. There's nothing more subjective than switching sides. So, sort of a bad example to take it up, probably, at least. But I think that this plan and this way of structuring my approach towards a problem and an obstacle is more objective, at least, than it was a year ago when I was very highly opinionated and just said, you know, this is my point of view, it's probably right, I ain't even going to consider you all. I even think I criticized myself about this in a video once not so long ago when I was talking about my own personal flaws. And how I'm just, you know, sometimes I used to stick with something even though I figured out it was wrong over the course of a discussion, and I was like, no, I'm still right, and I've completely dropped that. At least in this video format, I've completely, or at least heavily diminished that concept, say, of my own personality and my own character, which is great. 2 thumbs fresh. I absolutely bloody love it. And this is also because I'm forced to do this each and every single day, so obviously I'm going to become better at it. Yet again, 2 thumbs fresh. Now though, let's move into the numero uno, the best one of them all. And many could say this is confidence, but it's not though. I sort of planned that on point 3. No, the number one thing is structure and a sense of progression and process. Yeah, I know. How much more boring can I do that? Discipline that can be carried over to new projects. Because if it is anything that I have talked about over the year, if there is any amount of consistency, right, in what I've been discussing, it is that structure is A to Z in an organization, right? I think I said that in my 10th video or something like that. In the first 50 at least, I know that I'm mentioning it in every other video. The amount of importance that structure has to an organization. You need to have structure. Why? Well, because you need to identify a process. And you need to identify a process in order to fulfill your progression, right? You need to be able to progress, because that is in itself going to establish discipline that you do progress throughout your process. And I think that is something that I become so much better at after doing this. Let me just give you an example, right? I mean, take a year ago, summer last year, I had days when I didn't really do anything. I was all up in arms, I was all up in thought that, you know, I want to do all of these things, an amalgamation of, you know, I would like to play the piano, I would like to play the guitar, I would like to sing something, I would like to make a video, I would like to play video games, I would like to go outside, I would like to go to the gym and hang out with all my friends. And when are you gonna sleep? Well, I wanna do that too. And then I'm just ended up doing none of it. And I was very, very inefficient, even though I was really efficient compared to, you know, lots of me mates. But just because you, and this is really harsh, just because you compare something bad with something worse doesn't necessarily make it good, right? Not that my friends are any bad at anything, right? But I would argue that I was a bit more disciplined at the time. That could have changed, obviously, by the years, but yet again, that was the stance I was in. But over the course of the year, I've been so much better at establishing, you know, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do that, and then I actually do all of those things. I write it down on a list, I cross things off the list. I've done that since I was like, what, 14? But now I'm doing it with around the structure of making a video. Before I only really had going to the gym. That was like my fast, you know, the point each and every single day that I knew I'm going to plan around this point. But now I also have, you know, making a video. So now I have 2 points most of the days where I can consider, okay, I can plan around these things. And when you start planning around something, it's much easier to accomplish things. This sounds ludicrous. You reduce the amount of time you have in your spare time and in your free time to do stuff, and yet you're getting more stuff done. And that's probably because you're getting, you know, this sensation of, I have less time. I actually can't just sit with my finger up my butt. I need to actually get up and do things, right? And that's a huge accomplishment in my own life, because I'm always, yet again, been a very disciplined boy, a very disciplined person. But this is just taking it to a whole other level. And as I said in the end there, this is something that can be applied to future projects. Maybe not even necessarily video making, but if I want to write a book, I now know that I'm capable of sitting down 2 hours each and every single day and be productive in doing something. If I want to work for a charity, I know that I can take the time off and be productive and do that. You know, all of these things is now possible because of this. And that is, in the end, the biggest pro that I can take away from this experience, because I can apply it not only to video making, but to a lot of other things as well. One can argue that many of these things were things that you can apply to other, you know, projects and events. which only makes them better and elevate them, I would like to say. Anyway, mates, that was everything for me today. Have a nice one, and tomorrow we're gonna get into some top 5 videos, concrete stuff. Have a nice one. Bye.